Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Real Talk with Tanya White with the Attica Scott. You know it's election season, and I had to get my girl on here. And the great thing about it is that we don't have to restrain ourselves because of a certain political party, or we can just voice our opinions and views because we're not on traditional radio. We're on podcast. So the honorable, the audacious, the advocate, everything, everybody's people, they call her when things are going wrong or when things need straightened out.
Yes.
The Honorable Attica Scott, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you, Queen. It's so good to see you. You are radiating power, and I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yes. It's because I'm talking to a powerful woman, and I always love talking to you, Attica.
The same, Queen. Yes.
Less than a month from now, Attica, we're going to jump right into it.
Okay.
It's election 2024. A lot of state and local, but a national presidential election. We're going to start at the top and come on down.
All right.
We got the first African-American Democratic nominated lady running. Kamala Harris. Let's get Kamala.
Yes.
And we're going to let's talk about how this came to be.
Yes.
Because a lot of people think, this is out of the blue, but I don't think so. I think it's very strategic. Attica, 4 years ago when Joe Biden went into office, we know he was concerns about him being the oldest, but we came off a very horrific, I don't even know, 45. 45.
The Orange Menace.
Yes. And so Joe was desperately needed. And then Joe nominated Kamala Harris. It was buzzing that he was going to nominate a Black woman. Yes. And he did just that.
Yes.
So take us back to 2020 when all this came about.
Absolutely. And I need to start, Tanya, by saying, and I hope that people have said this to you, I see you. I see your growth, your expansion. Trust me, I see it as well as I'm sure other people do as well. Sometimes we forget to say it because we see it all the time. But when I tell you, you already were all up here. You have surpassed the stratosphere. And I'm just like, all right now. Okay. So I love it.
Well, we're going to talk about that. Some you got to leave the comfortable and the common and what people expect you to do and do something different. As with our hopefully 47th president.
Yes. So let's talk about it. So 2020, I believe it's important for us to acknowledge in 2020, we were going through a global pandemic.
Yes.
And we were going through a movement for racial justice against police violence and to hold police accountable. So we cannot overlook the power of that movement to influence the presidential election in 2020. We cannot overlook that. That would be a huge mistake. And Joe Biden was intelligent enough to say, I must meet this moment politically, and I must answer the cries and the demands of the people when it comes to the politics and representation. And he made a commitment. He made a promise that his vice presidential nominee would be a Black woman. And his feet were held to the fire. It didn't happen by happenstance. It's because Black women like me, like you, and other Black women across this country said, you made a promise. And we've been showing up on these streets for justice every single day. We've been crying out for it, and we've been crying out for representation. And now it's time to meet this moment. And he did just that.
He did just that. And not only did he do just that, she's more than qualified.
That's right.
More than ready.
Yes.
And was not just a pretty face to say, I got a woman with me and a Black woman.
That's right.
So he did just what he said. And it was needed. And unfortunately, at the time when we talk about racial justice, our city was at the forefront of that national conversation.
All right now.
It still is. Okay. We know Breonna Taylor.
That's right.
We know the situation.
That's right.
Very, very unjust. And so 2020, a global pandemic.
Yes.
Nobody knew what was going on. Yes, we had vaccine, but we still were unaware. What is this vaccine going to do? The status of our nation was in an uproar, and even certain parties knew that 45 was not it.
That's right.
And something had to give, and
That's
something gave.
Yes.
Now, election night, going into the presidency, tell us, you are, for those who don't know you, and I don't know why you don't know Attica Scott, but let's put a pin in there. Give your bio and politics so people can know that this woman knows what she's talking about. Go ahead, Attica.
Well, absolutely, Queen. Happy to do so. So I have a graduate degree in political science and journalism and communication. So I came here not only with practical on the ground street experience, I come here with the academics to understand how politics works. Then I did the community work. I worked all across Kentucky, building power, building relationships, grounding our southern states. And then I ran for office. I first ran for school boards. The first time I ever ran for office. And for people who are watching, I'm going to be honest. We didn't know what we were doing. It was my first time running for office. I grew up in the projects, Tanya. We were just doing our best. We didn't win, but I came in second in a 5-way race.
Woo.
Okay.
Did y'all hear that? She came in second.
Listen.
For the Jefferson County. Y'all need to know. Jefferson County School Board.
That's right. Exactly. And so I didn't win. But here's the thing. The people on Metro Council watched me that following year to see, was she going to shrink and fade away, or was she going to continue to show up and keep going? I continued to show up and keep going. And so a year later, I had the opportunity to be appointed to Metro Council. More than a dozen people applied for the position, and a handful of names were presented for actual consideration. And it was between me and another person. And when I tell you, it was so powerful to be in that room, particularly when I choose to be a Democrat. One of the Republicans said, I know Attica Scott from her work. She lives in my district. She would be the best representative for her district. And I was appointed to Metro Council, and I served, and then I lost my reelection, which happens.
Yes.
And then a year later, I was recruited to run for state representative. And do you know, I became the first Black woman in almost 2 decades to serve in our state legislature. And I busted that door open for other Black women. And now we've got 3 times as many Black women serving in our state legislature. So it's not about being the only one and bragging on that. It's about who do you bring with you to make sure you are not the only one.
Woo! Attica, listen, we're going to have some good old conversation because we're not restricted. You know, I like to take notes because you're a prolific, profound voice that I listen and learn from. You said, even though you did not win the first time you ran, people were watching you.
Yes.
To see what your response would be after. You said, was she going to shrink and fade away or show up? And you showed up, shined, showed out, showed some people, supported people. All of that, you did that under your first run, which you didn't win.
That's right.
But you stayed in the race, basically. You stayed there. And you said something at the end. You were the first you were recruited. Well, first of all, you were appointed.
Well,
Metro Council.
Yes.
And you
anointed.
And anointed. Yeah. Anointed and appointed. I think Nicole Griffin wrote a book like that. But then they watched you, all right? And people know when you're appointed, of course, people who don't think you should be in there, they recruit their people to run against you. And that's what happened. A lot of people who are appointed lose their next race. So that's common. But then you were recruited to run for the Kentucky state legislator.
That's right.
And then you won that. And you were the first African-American woman in 2 decades. And you said something. You win positions. You are God elevates you to positions to see, not for you to be the only one.
That's right.
But to bring people along. And that's what we want to talk about real quick.
Yes.
The bringing along. what is your leadership legacy? That's what I'm writing about. And so oftentimes, and we're going to get in this, we're going to talk this about 2-3 minutes. Okay. So oftentimes, and we talked about this before, we want to be the first and the only and the ever.
Well, yes.
And so it's time out for that. When you get in a leadership position, you need to groom others to be leaders, not followers of your vision. Shape and make them. Tell us why that is so important.
I will. And so you started out by asking about my leadership legacy. And I will say this first and foremost, my children are my leadership legacy, because if I do nothing else but make sure that I have embedded in my children a commitment to what justice looks like in action, which is love. If I have not made sure that my children go forth and be the kind of folks who are trying to make a difference in people's lives and to save this planet, then I have failed miserably, no matter what position I serve in office. So I say that first and foremost. The second thing I would say is just about every person who started out with me on this political journey has run for office themselves.
What'd you say?
Almost every person who started out on this political journey with me has run for office themselves. So what happened? They learned from our experiences and said, I can do that as well. And I supported them in that. And now what do we have? Councilwoman Shamika Parrish, right, who started out as my campaign treasurer when I ran for school board, is now a Louisville Metro Council person. And in fact, came in second when she ran for the mayor of Louisville in 2022. Somebody who was formerly homeless and formerly incarcerated came in second in her race for mayor.
Came in second, a Black woman.
A Black
woman.
In
Louisville, Kentucky. Y'all don't know how monumental that is.
Well,
let's start right there. You said every person who worked with you on your first campaign said, I can do that.
Yes.
Now, most leaders say, I want you to stay in your position and help me get to another level.
That's right.
You have to birth other leaders.
Yes.
And in the birthing, you got to let some people go.
That's right.
And if you don't, we see a paralyzation in systems and institutions that could have grown and expanded, but don't, because leaders want the people they started with to stay with them.
Yes.
What was in you that says, when those who work with you say, I can do that, I want to run, and you said, go ahead, I'm gonna support them. What traits did you have to have in order to let others fly?
I had to be willing to say, when I was running and they were working on my campaign, you go do you. I trust and value what you bring to this campaign. I don't have any interest, nor do I have time to micromanage. I'm the candidate. I got to go knock on doors, make phone calls, show up everywhere. And you do all the other work that you're doing. You help with raising money, manage volunteers, get the financial reports done, all that good stuff. Cut the turf for folks to go knock on doors, all of that. And so people learn real skills. That meant they actually learn how to operate a campaign, which meant along the way, they were also learning how to run themselves. And I also encourage people. Anytime someone said to me, I'm thinking about running for, then do it. You don't even have to say what it is. Do it. Absolutely do it. And that made a difference. And then when they ran, I made it clear that I was going to support them in every way that I could, including donating to their campaign, showing up as a volunteer. Sending that money that people need when they run for office. Yes. And volunteering with their campaign and making sure everybody knew I supported them for office. Did
you say make sure everybody knew that you supported them?
Absolutely.
Like verbally? Absolutely. Like you said it verbally?
Verbally, and I made sure I posted it all over my socials.
So it was not just a private support, Attica?
No.
People in the public knew that you were with these people. Ooh, we could go so much deeper.
Yes, we could.
Especially when it comes to relationships and females helping females, romantic relationships. Because a lot of people want to say, what's my business? And I'm going to keep it secret. No, sometimes people got to know who is in your corner and who you support, you're with. Yes. And so you said, not only did I encourage them, I supported them privately, but everybody knew.
That's right.
I'm with them.
That's right.
Going back, 2020, Biden, the inaugural,
Yes.
Biden, Harris are in office.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to many people just, again, they thought this was out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Very strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go from the political mindset, how Kamala operated.
Yes.
Vice President Kamala.
Yes, right. That's right.
Going to be president.
Yes.
How she operated in her position as being the vice president, and not because we can get so suchy muchy, as Tina Finley says, when we're the first in something and we want to do this and that and that. Explain to us the flow that happened.
Absolutely. So from day one, Vice President Harris made sure that people knew she was a Black college graduate. She proudly graduated from an HBCU, was part of a Black sorority.
Yes.
Proudly so, and made sure that people knew. And she showed up when Black women asked her to show up. And she also brought Black women to the White House. So we felt like we were part of the administration.
Yes. So not only did she talk it, she walked.
Yes, that's it.
And she brought others along, much like you just said. Now, in her work, because a lot of people, and I'm trying to get people to understand, sometimes you got to be just doing the work, not being acknowledged. Because if you look back, it was all on Biden. She very seldom was in the national public eye for what she did.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that she wasn't doing anything.
Right.
Can you, and let's take it back to when you became elected to the Kentucky state. A lot of people said, why don't you do this and do that? Tell us about getting in the system and understanding the system flow first.
Absolutely. First and foremost, if you let it, the system will break you. So you have to maintain your peace in the way that works for you, which is something that I'm sure as a Black woman, an Indian woman, that Vice President Harris had to do, because I know I had to do it myself as well. I also know that if I wanted to have people have conversations about issues that impacted us, particularly as Black women, whether it was my support of the Crown Act or the Black maternal health bill or any issues that I was supporting, I had to make sure I built up the community support just as I did the legislative support. Because one of the things I say to people often, and I'm working on some Clean Slate Initiative work right now, is if the people don't know what you're working on, you may not have the support of the legislators, because the people are the ones who can apply the pressure. They can show up at the gas stations and the grocery stores where elected officials shop and pump their gas and say, why haven't you supported this piece of legislation? The other thing that I will say, Tanya, which I think is really important, especially for people to understand what it's like to be a Black woman in office, is that even though my bills did not pass, and for 5 years, they didn't even hear a bill by a Black person for 5 years. Even though my bills didn't pass, do you know that Frankfurt passed the Crown Act, Covington passed the Crown Act, Louisville passed the Crown Act, city after city passed the Crown Act in Kentucky? So it wasn't as if people weren't paying attention. It was that we had racism at the very core of the state legislature. And so other people knew their communities had to step up and do the work that we were trying to do, because we didn't keep it secret. See, sometimes people are working on legislation at the state level, you never even know about it. But we made sure everybody across Kentucky knew what we were working on, so they could pick up that energy and match the flow.
Pick up the energy and match the flow. Pick up the energy and match the flow. That's more than just politics. That's business. That's in your profession, especially if you're a leader. You're not going to break anything at the top per se when you first get in there. You got to, I heard you say, you got to build the community.
Yes.
And show the community that you can touch and influence.
Yes.
Why we need this, get the buy-in, show them why it is important to them.
Yes.
And then keep that momentum. Again, you may not ever touch the top. I know some people, especially, I'm a new leader, new principal, under a year, think, sometimes she's new, she's gonna do everything. No. You can't just be brazen with the organizational top tier executive. No, you've got to, I love what you said, build the community.
Yes.
Show them what you can do, basically. That's what you said. Yeah, Frankfurt, the legislature didn't pass it, but communities around it passed.
Yes. That's right.
And you know what that does? It makes say, okay, why are they passing it?
Exactly.
How did they even know about
it? That's right. Exactly.
So equating that with things that Vice President Harris is doing.
Yes.
A lot of people saying she's not visible enough. No, she's visible. She's just not visible in the mass media who wants to interview her.
Oh, can we talk about it?
Go ahead. You know that's why I brought it up, Attica.
So I was reading an article last month that talked about how presidential candidate Harris has decided that she is going to go to local media. She is going to go to the podcasters. She's going to go to the indie media with her story, with her platform, with her agenda, because mainstream media does not do justice to Black women when we are running for office. And I have experienced it myself. I know from my own experience. So why is she going to put herself before people who will treat her differently than they will a white man running for the same seat? So she's going to where the people are actually listening, Tanya, where the people are actually going to show up, and she's sharing her story and her message there. And here's the thing. The people who say that she's not doing much of anything, or they don't see her or don't hear her, are not tuned into the folks who are on the ground. They're probably not tuned into very many communities that are predominantly Black or communities of color. They're not tuned into young people, right? They're not tuned into where women are going to get our news, but she is. And I think that's vitally important, because she is sending a message that we are going to reshape the way politics works in this country. And we are going to define our narratives and not allow you to change our narratives, because you're a mainstream media and you have your own agenda.
You have your own agenda. One of my Facebook friends, their daughter went to Howard. She's a freshman. And in the freshman year, they had a gathering. And guess who popped up?
See?
Presidential candidate Harris. Yes. She's going to the college campus who will vote. Will get out there and vote.
That's right.
Like, I love what you said. She's going to people who will hear her story and not change her narrative. And that's what you have to do when you are running for office. You are in a new leadership position, whether you're an entrepreneur, you have to go. You have to dare to do something different. Don't do what's common and expect. That's right. Sometimes you got to go out of the box to do and get out of the box results.
Yes. And I'll give you an example. So you talked about 2020 and 2021. So 2021, we were working on Breonna's Law in Frankfurt, and I was proud to be the primary sponsor of that piece of legislation. We had people who were part of the protest who came up with me to do a march and rally in Frankfurt. Do you know how many of them said they had never been to the People's House, their own state capital? And some of them were older than me. Some of them my same age group, and some who were younger, who said they had never been there. But because of the political movement, the legislative movement that we were building, they felt like they finally belonged and that they could show up as their whole authentic selves on an issue that they had been working on and protesting about for almost a year. That's what we have to do as people in elected office. We have to go to the actual people who are directly impacted by what we're working on.
Yes. And I love what you said. They finally felt like they belong. Yes. This wasn't a color thing. It was an agenda. It's a people thing. When people don't feel like they belong and that they don't have a voice, they're not going to do anything.
That's right.
You. So you can say, hey, I got this many and this. No, it shows up in how many people know what you're doing and how many people support you, especially if you're elected official, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. Okay.
So less than a month away.
Yes.
Some people are still trying to make up their mind. What should, and then we're going to get to state and local. On the presidential election, not telling people who to vote for or what.
That's right.
What issues and what will help people, saying, I made up my mind. Because some people, this is their first time voting, and they're not 18. Some of them are like 40. I had some students, some adult students said, this is gonna be my first time voting, and I just need to know what to look for.
Yes.
What does the novice voter? What should they look for in a candidate? Or
Yes, that is such an important question. Election day is 4 weeks from Tuesday. Okay, so we are so close to election day. And it's important for people to ask themselves what would make a difference in their lives, so that they don't just vote for anyone, right? We absolutely don't want that. I think it's also important for those of us who already know how we plan to vote. Please don't get into bashing people who are still making up their minds, because that turns people away. You may actually have someone who will hear you out and decide to vote in a way that may reflect what you believe in and what you value. But if you go and berate them because they're still deciding, you could turn them off. So instead, engage in conversation. Ask someone, what's important to you? What will make a difference in your life? What do you care about? Is the environment something you care about? Is the economy something that you care about? Do you want to see people make more than a $7.25 minimum wage? Because that's a poverty wage. Okay. Ask people where they stand on women's reproductive rights, because what I do with my body, what my daughter does with her body, is none of your business.
Yes.
So do you support someone who says the same thing, that it's none of your business, and I'm going to make sure that women have, and people who are birthing people have access to the full spectrum of healthcare? You got to be asking yourselves those questions, because right now we are in the fight of our lives. And I believe every election is important. I will not say that any one is more important than the other, because there are times when we know that issues like immigration are on the ballot. Well, I may not be impacted directly, but I know people I care about and I love deeply who are. So that particular election is the most important election of their lives and my life, because I care about them.
Absolutely. So that is wise wisdom for the novice voter. Let's move to the state, our state, because we in Kentucky.
Okay.
Issues on the table.
Yes.
That will impact not only our state, and then we're gonna move to local.
Okay.
Kentuckians.
Yes.
When we go 4 weeks from tomorrow.
That's right.
We're going to see school choice.
Listen. Here's the thing, Kentuckians. It's actually pretty clear. Vote no on Amendments 1 and 2. That's it. Amendment 1 is anti-immigrant. It's anti-democracy. It doubles down on hate. We've seen what's happening to Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. We do not need to scrape the bottom of the barrel, Kentucky, and become a commonwealth that hates on immigrants. We already say in our state constitution that people who are not citizens cannot vote or only citizens can vote in our elections. So why add a second sentence that says the same thing if you don't want to do more than stoke hate and fear in our ballot and access to the ballot? Instead, we should expand access to the ballot. We should have things like same-day voter registration. We should have weeks of early voting. Okay? So I'm just putting that out there. The other thing, y'all, vote no on Constitutional Amendment 2. Now, for your new viewers, Tanya, who may not know me, I was kicked off of the education committee in our state capitol when I served in the legislature, because I was a bit of a loudmouth when it comes to public education. You weren't going to find a bigger advocate than Attica Scott for public education. So they removed me from the committee. Well, it was against their rules. And so they had to put my black body back on that committee, because I was not playing with them. So I believe wholeheartedly that public dollars should go to public schools, not private schools. So vote no on Constitutional Amendment 2 as well, which is the voucher amendment.
Wow. As you can see, now let's just go and move to local.
Okay, then.
The school superintendent has announced his retirement.
He has. Yes, he has.
Let's just take a drink of water.
Okay, well, I knocked out all my water, but let me just say this. So the week that he announced his retirement, the Department of Education Civil Rights Division announced that they had completed a 10-year investigation into our public school system and found that Black students were disciplined more harshly than white students.
Did it take them 10 years? They could have come to me. I was in there 20 years. And that's why I was lynched professionally, because I was advocating for that they found.
Yes, absolutely. But they took the time, they did their thorough research and investigation. But before they released that this last month, the year before that, there was this huge debacle with the busing system, and the Department of Justice at the federal level is investigating how students who were Black and of color were impacted by that debacle with the missed instructional time. Yes. Yes. All that's happening right now when the superintendent has announced his retirement. Yes.
So let me put some of my basic reading comprehensions. If we can infer what was going to happen with the next superintendent choice, they got all these investigations. I make an inference that they'll have more Black and brown candidates to show that no, that's not correct.
Yes.
So saw it coming.
Yes.
I thought it was kind of delayed. I think with the debacle, it got kind of delayed because you heard things.
Yes.
But a lot of people think that.
And Tanya, just real quick, we had 4 years of the Orange Menace, who also contributed to the delays in investigations from the Department of Justice and the Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights. So I just want to acknowledge that there were 4 years there where the Orange Menace also contributed to these delays. But please continue.
And so what is happening now is that a lot of people don't know that the school board has a lot of power in our city. A lot of financial power, social power, and their budget is very large.
Yes, it is.
Some dare say larger than our city budget.
It is.
So what happens with there kind of dictates what happens in the city. A lot of people don't understand that. How can people be more informed, not just during voting season? Because after the election, I'm like, oh, and then they're watching people do things.
Yes.
How can we be more informed and learn and be more educated about our elected officials?
Yes. You're speaking to an activist and an organizer. So I just want to put that out there. So I would say a few things. One, show up, y'all. The school board meets twice a month. Show up to a school board meeting if you can, even if it's once a quarter. Show up so that you can be present in that room or watch online, because they do stream online. So watch online the school board meetings so you know for yourself what is happening. And then speak up. Particularly if you are a parent or a student, you have more agency than anyone in the school system, because the schools wouldn't exist without the students. That's the whole primary purpose. So if you're a parent or a guardian or a student, speak up about your experiences. And then make sure that you stand up for what you believe in. When you see injustice, inequities, a lack of fairness in our school system, say something. Say something about it rather than sit back and do nothing. The other thing you can do is make sure that you know who your school board member is so that they can be on speed dial, right? Real quick when something happens. So make sure you know who they are. Make sure you are following groups and organizations that share about what's happening in the school system. And so there are lots of organizations that do that kind of work. The Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression is looking at racial justice issues in our school system. So follow them for information. Lots of other groups that are doing good work as it relates to our school system. So pay attention to them. So there are many, many ways you can get involved. Get involved with your child's PTSA, PTA. Yes.
That's the most powerful group in the school.
That's the most powerful group. Yes.
And that's why I got lynched. Because I was encouraging parents, I'm gonna need y'all to show up. I'm gonna need y'all to run, because that's where the school funds are allocated through.
Yes.
The PTSA and the SBDM.
Exactly. And I will say that's probably actually my first election. I served the SBDM at 2 of my children's schools, elementary school and middle school. So that was actually my first time being involved in a political campaign to be the representative on the SBDM. That's the School-Based Decision-Making Council,
Yes.
y'all. They are literally creating the strategic plan for the school system. I was involved with hiring the new principal at my son's middle school. Get involved.
Get involved. And I need our people to know, not just when things happen. And you be like, oh,
Yes.
I'm like, first of all, I need y'all to get my book, Professionally Lynched, and I'll tell you the journey.
That's right.
The subtleties that happen point by point. It begins with how your children are scheduled, how, their schedules, their options for schools. It's so much insight. And so thinking you're just sending your child, and if you go to your child's school and most of the population is Black and brown students, and you see no Black and brown teachers, is that not a red flag?
Yes, it is. How does that work?
How is it still working?
Still in 2024. I just need
on the way to 2025. So it's still working. It's subtleties. And so I don't want us to wait until the Breonna Taylors happen.
Yes.
Because it's slowly happening. Like I write my book, Professionally Lynched. There are so many academic and social Breonna Taylors that are happening within the school system daily. They are being not just students, but staff. Are being professionally executed for no reason whatsoever that the system thought that they were indispensable.
Yes. Well, and that they had the nerve to be thinkers.
Thank you.
Right. Not only about what the system thought of them, but they were thinkers and critical thinkers at that. A system does not like a critical thinker.
No. And that's why you got kicked off the education committee.
But that's also why I got redistricted out of my seat. They split my district in half. But we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about them cutting my district.
The subtleties. The strategic subtleties.
Yes.
Now, when you go to the polls 4 weeks from tomorrow, y'all, listen, get there early. I done had some people say, hey, well, can we be off? Can we come in late? Nope. You better get your butt early, because get up. Just like you was going to a concert. Get up.
That's it. Yes.
Be in line at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Waiting.
Yes.
Happily.
And know who the school board members are who are running, because they are running right now.
Yes.
And y'all ask them where they stand on parents being fined $500 for their children who have missed 15 days of school. Ask them how a parent who works 2.5 jobs is supposed to be able to get their child to school when the bus system doesn't work. Ask that school board member these questions.
Or they have a parent-teacher conference and they're not flexible to the parent schedule. Now everything's virtual. Why can't we have virtual parent-teacher conference?
Thank you.
You ain't thought about that.
So think about it.
Ask the questions. There is always a win-win situation in my mind. You may not get what you want, but you can get a little bit of what you want, and so can the other person.
That's right.
Create a win-win situation.
That's it.
Now, 4 weeks from tomorrow, our time is coming down. I've been talking to you all night.
Yes, same.
We can talk.
Yes.
As this is not just a national necessity for everyone to get out and cast their votes, no matter who you vote for, get out and make your voice known. Your vote matters.
Yes.
State level, local level. I want to talk, and you're going to come back in a month from today after the election. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But talk to, I don't even know who to talk to, because Black women show up. Black women are the backbone.
Yes.
I don't know, but give some Attica Scott-isms.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to speak to the people who, including the Black women who are not sure that their vote makes a difference and that their vote matters. I want you to know that your vote absolutely matters, okay?
Yes.
Because I would have never had the chance to serve in the state legislature had you not voted for me to defeat a 30-plus year incumbent. I never would have served in the state legislature. So your voice does matter. It does make a difference. Remember those local, like you said, those local and state races. Half of the Louisville Metro Council is on the ballot this year. half of them, these are the people who can decide whether or not the mayor gets his new $500 million jail. Okay.
Did y'all hear that? A $500 million jail, but we can't find funds for schools. Let me stop. Go ahead. Go ahead, Attica. This is your time. Attica-isms.
Listen, these are the people who will hold your mayor accountable when he's sweeping up people's belongings who are houseless. These are the people that you need to be paying attention to, your Louisville Metro Council. So I'm going to say this to you. Your vote matters. It makes a difference. You matter. You make a difference. Vote. And then after November 5th, you run for office because you can make a difference serving in office. And whether or not you win, the fact that you showed up and put your name on that ballot says a lot, and it will inspire someone else, and you will learn so much. So vote, run, and support good people for office, because there are so many folks who are running for office right now who could use your support. I'm telling you, $5, they could buy a t-shirt for $5 for their campaign. So they'll send them $5 and send them a word of encouragement and post. It doesn't take you much of anything. Even if you shared it on your story for 24 hours, post about your candidates who are running for office to represent you, who you support.
It's just a quick click. That's all it is. A quick click.
Yes.
And even, I love what you said. Even if you don't win, someone is going to be inspired by you being in the race. Yes. So Attica, you know I love you. You shall be November 7th. We're going to debrief the election, okay?
Sounds good.
Get with Attica. Attica, give the people how they can stay connected to you. Attica does her own commentary on Instagram. I don't know why she don't have a podcast by now.
No. Work on it. Okay? Right. So, well, actually, I want to send people to you. You support your podcast. That's what we need people to do. Real Talk with Tanya White. So y'all can follow me on all the social platforms, just about all of them. Attica Scott KY, Attica Scott KY. That's where I'm showing up on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, on TikTok, on LinkedIn. Attica Scott KY or Attica Scott.
Attica Scott. She's always in these streets doing good for the people, supporting people. Follow her. I mean, her commentaries just be like, wow. We're going to see Attica Scott on CNN and all these political commentary shows real soon, because she has so much to say. She's real, like my show says, relevant and refreshing. Get out there and vote November 5th. November 5th. Get up like you're going to get some Janet Jackson tickets. Okay? Get up. Get up like that. So until tomorrow is the regular Real Talk with Tanya White show. We have Chanel Coleman on. We're talking about empower her. This was a special election night. We're going to have Attica Scott back for a special after election night, November 7th. And we're going to talk about some things. But until then, love, live, and spread laughter, you all. Laugh. Because you got to just have some joy in your life. Until tomorrow at 7 p.m. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.